So today I'm going to turn some of these steaks and tenderloins from deer I shot last year. I'm going to turn them into jerky. So I gotta have just a little bit of little bit of silver skin left on here. Some of it's coming off, little chunks of tallow. But I'm just gonna go through, clean up kind of some of this little excess stuff that I just don't want on the jerky. So trim some of that stuff off, and we'll gonna keep moving along here. All right, so I got the meat pretty cleaned up. There's a little bit of here and there, some little pieces of silver skin, but just a little bit's not really gonna bother me much. The main reason I like to make jerky, especially venison jerky, one, it's delicious. It's a great snack to take into the woods. You know, it's meat, so it can fill you up and then kind of keep you out there for the day. So you're not worried about trying to get back to get some food and then get back out there. So when I go out, I like to stay out all day without having to come back to get food or drinks or anything like that. So I try to take everything with me right away. And so these pieces, these are some loin chunks. These are a little longer than I normally like. This is some steak, so this is probably about the length I'm gonna keep most of my jerky. So with these longer loins, I'm just gonna probably cut them in half and we'll kind of get them all a little bit closer in the similar size. I actually just recently got this meat slicer. What I used to do though, so if you don't have one, is I would cut it thin and I'd take like a flat spatula or a butter knife, and I would literally just sit there and just pound it so it flattened it out, which when we go to, which we're gonna smoke it versus dehydrating it, it just, it doesn't have to take as long, and then you get more of that kind of thinner, chewy, jerky texture. So, but this time, just got this, so we're gonna try this out and just slicing it instead of having to pound it. And we're gonna give this a try and see how that goes. So these are the first couple slices. Actually pretty good thickness. Just wanted to test it out, see if I need to go thicker or thinner. And I think I'm actually gonna keep it kind of how it is. It's, I don't know, maybe just shy of a 1/4 inch thick or so. So give me a nice hearty little snack out in the woods. So I got everything sliced. Now I just kind of like to lay it all back out on the cutting board so I can start seasoning it, make sure I get a good layer on everything. All right, and for a seasoning, I don't even know what's in here. I made this, I just kind of grabbed some seasoning that I found in the pantry and added them to an old seasoning container. But in the past I've used like steak seasonings, dry rubs and stuff like that, and all that stuff works good. You don't need much to make venison taste good. Alright, so I got a good layer on this first side, and then what I like to do is I just kind of go through and just kind of rub it in, just so when you move it around, not everything just falls off. So I just want to make sure it stays on the meat, especially once it goes on to the smoker. And then I'm going to flip it all, and then I'm going to season the other side as well. Then I'll kind of grab it all, and because there's some seasoning that just kind of stays on the cutting board, I'll kind of just, I guess, mush it around. Not too bad so it like falls apart, but just to kind of grab whatever's left over on here. Makes for a little easier cleanup in the end as well. So then, I don't necessarily I'm gonna get them in the containers. I don't really lay them in there nicely, but I lay them in there so when I go to put them on the smoker, I'm not trying to untangle everything. So it's kind of just like a piece at a time, and however they lay is, I guess however they lay, not that big of a deal. So that's one container. I'll get a lid on this. I'm gonna stick it in the fridge and I let that sit overnight. I've noticed when I've done it in the past, it just kind of helps soak up more of those flavors, and I don't know, it tends to turn out better for me. Not that it's bad if you don't let it sit there, but if I let it sit overnight in the fridge, it just ends up tasting better. The texture ends up being better once it comes off the smoker. So set to that aside. I've got a little bit more left on the plate that I'm gonna season up, and then I'm gonna add one more little thing. I'm gonna try something new with this last one, but I'll get these seasoned up and then I'll show you what I'm gonna try new. So getting this stuff in with what I'm gonna try new, I'm not gonna be so particular about how I'm gonna get it in there. So I'm just gonna dump it in there. And then I'm spicy. And I've got a friend who lives down in Texas, and every once in a while she'll send up some this Torchy's Diablo sauce, which is delicious, got great flavor, really spicy, so I don't really know how much to add here, but I don't know, we're just gonna add it and see how it feels. I'm gonna mix it all up and let it sit again overnight, let it really soak in those flavors, and I guess we'll see how spicy it gets. So we'll see how this goes. Mix it up. I have no idea if this is too much or too little. Based on how much this is coating, I feel like it might be a little spicier than I was anticipating it to be, but I like spicy. And regardless of how spicy it is, this is deer that I've shot, and I'm gonna eat it all because none of this goes to the garbage. So that's what I got. This is the kind of stuff that I make more traditionally. This is kind of an experiment, so we'll see what happens. Get this stuff in the fridge, let it sit overnight, and then tomorrow we'll get it out in the smoker, and I'll kind of go through that process, and then otherwise I'm gonna go wash my hands before I touch my eyes and can't see. So we'll get this out there tomorrow. All right, so I let the jerky sit overnight, let it kind of marinate in its own little seasonings and sauces that I used. Got the smoker all ready. So one thing, so this is an electric pellet smoker that I'm using, and I don't have a dehydrator, so I use this kind of in place of a dehydrator since I don't have one, and this has turned out to work really well. So here, just gonna turn it on. Just gonna get into startup mode. I set it to 220. I could probably do it at the 160 since I'm doing it at a longer time frame. But what I do like is this produces a higher smoke yield, I guess, and so this ends up giving me a little more of a smoky flavor to the meat. And I like that, so I do it just at the high smoke, which is 220. And then another thing that I do then, so since the grate here is just an open grate, just like a grill or a normal smoker, I get some tin foil, aluminum foil, and I put that on as a base layer. I like to do that, one, so the thinner strips of jerky don't fall through the cracks, and that way I don't end up losing anything. Also, it allows a little bit more of that indirect heat, just allow the smoke to come through and let it kind of soak in and cook through the smoke versus just the heat coming from below it, like on a grill, like the flame would cook your food. This allows for more of an indirect heat
which I think helps kind of cure the jerky a little bit more to get that kind of pull apart, chewy, kind of normal jerky texture that you'd expect. So then another thing that I do when I do get the tin foil on, you can see I left a decent gap on each side here of the tin foil. And what I've noticed is in the past, sometimes I'll do this whole thing in tin foil, and it actually ends up basically suffocating the flame, which makes sense because it doesn't allow the heat to actually come through. So I leave a little gap on each side just to make sure that the air is circulating, they can get the smoke out, and it gets into the meat that I'm cooking here. All right, so I'm ready to get the some of the jerky on the smoker, and I'm going to put on the jerky that doesn't have all the spice on it quite yet. And the reason I'm going to do that one first is just so when I go to put the spicy stuff on, I'm not kind of getting the spicy into this other jerky, because I am trying to get 2 different batches, I guess you could say. So I'm going to do the non-spicy jerky first. All right, so then got the regular jerky on. Now we're going with the spicy jerky, and it smells pretty good. It actually smells a lot less spicy than I'm expecting, which is good, because I'm hoping, my intent with this is that it's not going to be overly spicy, but it's going to have a nice little bite. It smells like it's going to be perfect, but I guess we'll get it on the grill or on the smoker, and we'll see in the end how it actually tastes. So one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is with a pellet smoker, basically one of the first things you want to do is you just want to make sure the hopper's full. So basically just opening this thing up, making sure you got the pellets in there, so that way, one, it can feed and start the fire, but then also so you can basically just leave it and walk away to do your thing. So I'm gonna let this run for around 4 hours or so, and then I'm gonna check it, and I'm thinking it's probably gonna need a little bit more time than that. But it's important to have that hopper full so that you don't have to check it every half hour or 20 minutes or whatever it is. Just fill it up, kind of have an idea of when you want to come back, and then go do your thing. Let it just sit there and basically turn delicious. So, had the jerky on here, actually probably just shy of 4 hours, about probably about 3 hours and 45 minutes. So I just happened to check it just before the 4 hour mark, because I was going to head out, so I wanted to see if I need to let it go or if I can shut it down and get it off. And I'm actually going to get it off right now before I head out. I mean, it looks great. I guess if we can see this, so this is kind of the jerky now. Got a nice crisp outside. It is, now that I'm seeing it after it's all kind of smoked and kind of got shriveled up, I guess, from drying out a little bit. It is a little thinner than I normally like. I personally, when I'm making my jerky, I like to have it a little thicker, just because I like I like it when it's like got a little bit more of a meatier texture, where outside's crisp and the inside still got a little bit of that meat to it. So yeah, it's insides. I mean, I don't know if you can see that real well, but I don't know, it looks good. We're gonna give it a taste here. It's not as dry or as crispy as I thought it was going to be. It's still got a nice little chew to it. Actually, maybe I like it that thin. Maybe I don't. I'm glad I didn't do it any thicker. I just tried the one that didn't have the spiciness to it, and the flavor is just awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's really not that hard to do. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You can use a lot of different utensils as far as flattening or slicing. I mean, I used to use a butter knife, like I said, to flatten the meat, versus now I have the slicer, so I tried that. You have a smoker. Smoker does the trick really well. I'm glad I have this and not a dehydrator, actually, but obviously a dehydrator is kind of how you're supposed to make jerky, but this stuff turns out awesome. And I bet you if you guys experimented, there might be ways to even do it in the oven. But I mean, this will be gone in, I don't know, a couple of days. So it's not like I'm looking to get this thing to have a 3-year shelf life like the stuff you buy in a grocery store. So it's good, super easy to make, and just another way to kind of diversify how you're eating the food that we're harvesting. I mean, steaks are great, burgers are great, but if you can mix it up and do different things, like jerky, and I also have posted some pictures on Instagram. I did some like lunch meat out of a roast, and the kids loved that. It was awesome. It fed the family for about a week. So just experimenting, finding new things to do with wild game and the stuff that, you know, we're putting a lot of time into, harvest animals, and just a great way to consume it. So any questions, let us know. You can find us on Instagram. Otherwise, leave a comment down here on the channel. Thanks.